just want to know. My wife always asks me this question. I always go, well, you got to talk to Jim Coogan about that. Is that legal? She always asks, is that legal to just shake down a law firm, threaten to kick them out of federal courthouses, as you just said, threaten to cut them off at the knees, but then back off from that threat once they have agreed to give you free representation? Help me out on this, Jim. Go ahead.
Well, most things, if it's an agreement between two consenting parties, are legal, but not everything. Drug deals are not legal. So that doesn't matter if the two parties are both okay with it. The question of whether these things are enforceable will only come up if and when, and my guess is when, Donald Trump is unhappy with something about how it's playing out. Because this occurred to me this morning thinking about this some more. Shame on the Wilkie firm, and frankly, shame on Skadden Arps for doing the same thing. They've got tremendous, powerful, smart lawyers. They make a lot of money doing a lot of things, and they do engage in pro bono work, as you said, just to some degree to absolve themselves of the I don't want to call it sins, but they might look at some of the corporate work that they do as not the most noble legal representation, but it's very lucrative. So this is why those big firms do that. Then they get awards, and they get some idealistic young associates that want to work there because they know that they can work on petitions for habeas corpus for somebody who's improperly imprisoned, like you alluded to. Those are the easy ones, in the sense that once it's brought to everyone's attention and nobody believes that some guy is a murderer anymore because the evidence shows that he's not, well, then it's pretty easy for all of society to celebrate the fact that they're released from prison, even though they've lost 30 years of their life, unfortunately. So is it legal? I mean, I would be curious to see how that plays out when they either refuse to take a case that, I don't know who's going to, I'm not sure who's bringing these cases to them, by the way. If it's going to come from Trump's people, is it the White House? Is it a campaign operation? Is it the Heritage Foundation? Who's going to send all these pro bono clients over? Or they're going to say, we've got the Liberty Law Center wants to sue the state of Illinois for not outlawing abortion, and now you have to, Doug Emhoff's firm, you have to go represent us now. They're going to refuse, and then Trump's going to sue them, and then we'll see if that's enforceable. I don't know how it would be. It's not really a contract, especially when the agreement was based upon something that was illegal to begin with. The executive order doesn't have any legal weight, but I'm fairly confident that these firms they think they're getting one over on Trump. Now, they may not, and apparently they've decided they can stomach the reputational damage that they're going to get from doing it, but they probably think, hey, we'll do a few cases. If it's measured in dollars, we'll tell them, I mean, not to suggest that any law firm of that size has ever inflated their bills, but if they were to say, this case took us 50 hours instead of 15, suddenly you've lopped off a big chunk of that $100 million that you owe them. And who's going to account for that? I mean, these are proclamations. By the way, I think even it might have been Skadden Arps that issued their own statement about what they agreed to, and it was inconsistent with the Truth Social post from our able president. So I don't are these reduced to writing? Is there a contract? I don't think that those elements may not even exist. So your wife's question is a great question. The answer is yes, in the very broad sense that it's happening and nobody's going to go to jail over it, but probably not in the sense that it's a contract that can be enforced in court. And if and when he does that, what do they do then? Do they concede something else? Do they pretend like they're conceding like they're doing now, thinking that this is going to save face, reduce friction, and it's a way to position themselves in the marketplace because they're going to say, hey, you can't hire Perkins Coie anymore. Or they aren't going to hire Perkins Coie over at the Department of Defense to do this thing. Now we're going to be able to do this thing because the market of giant law firms who can do things in DC was just halved because half of them are going to fight, the other half aren't. So we're going to be doing great business. So I'm sure that's how you justify it in your management group, in your controlling, management committee that makes these decisions. So that's where the rubber is going to meet the road. It's still only April 2nd. I mean, we're only 75 days into this lunacy. So there will be another element to this. He's going to keep doing it. He's going to find other parties to have retribution against. There is probably going to be an amicus brief filed in support of Perkins Coie. My law firm, we're only a little fish out here in Cook County. And by the way, we practice throughout the state of Illinois, Ben. It's not just Cook County, just to be clear. But we're going to sign on to it because it's a statement in support of the rule of law and that presidents can't just boss around law firms in flagrant violation of the First Amendment and the Fifth Amendment and the Sixth Amendment and due process, substantive due process, equal protection. Those are all the counts in one of the lawsuits that's asking for the injunctive relief. These executive orders are violating all of it. So I stand behind that effort. So when he tries to enforce it, I don't know, maybe they'll change their tune and they'll say that was illegal in the first place. You really can't hold us to it. Ha, we got you. We're lawyers and we're smarter than you are. I don't know.
For 8 years, we've been talking. For 8 years, I've been urging you to read John Grisham novels. This is straight out of a John Grisham novel, or at least it's just like Grisham couldn't even have thought of this, and I hope he has a one coming out that will sort of pick up these themes. You said something, and I'd love for you to elaborate. So put yourself in the mind of a corporate lawyer in a big-time firm. And you said they feel, I'm not quoting you exactly, but they feel they're getting one off on Trump. So why would they think that?
Because he's going to withdraw the executive order and they will be off his radar. And as I kind of alluded to, I don't really know how he's going to even monitor whether they're doing the things that they claim to be doing. Plus, the rest of it's more or less illusory. Making a vague commitment that they're going to commit to not hiring based upon diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're only to do merit-based hiring. They already do merit-based hiring. And even if they have a statement saying that they want to include broader, groups of people, all that means is they're going to hire someone who didn't go to Georgetown or Yale. I mean, and they do it, and they should do it because diversity of thought, and there's great lawyers who didn't go to Harvard because they just didn't have the right requisites going in there, but got a ton of trial experience, even though they went to, a wonderful A+ university like DePaul University College of Law. So, like to be able to then say, Mr. President, we're going to do all this stuff. Most of it's not anything. It's really not anything.
Yeah.
They're not promising much. And even the pro bono things, they'll be able to justify it because even that statement from the Wilkie firm said something to the effect of, it'll be veterans causes and and something about anti-Semitism. So they can find a way to say, these fit within the kinds of things we would defend anyway. So we're not really agreeing to much.
Well, that's where the details are very important. So veterans causes, for instance, it all depends how you interpret causes, I suppose. So just think about this. Musk and Trump are teaming up to gut the VA, and they're being sued to prevent them from doing that. So if some big-time law firm that's buckled to Trump on the agreement that will provide pro bono work for veterans causes, does that mean that pro bono work, free work defending Trump's assault on the Veterans Administration, does that constitute a veteran cause? And the cause is destroying veterans' rights?
It's a great example. That is where the rubber would meet the road, because I'm sure what they're thinking is this is to represent vets who are being evicted. This is to represent vets in drug courts. This is to represent vets who have been charged with misdemeanors because they're homeless and because they stole something from a retail store, which are things that all those firms want to do. And those are laudable things. Those are things we should be doing. That's a matter of our social safety system failing these people. And when they are in a destitute situation and turn to doing something that's against the law, They do need that representation. So that's what they will interpret it to mean. But that's why we won't know for another whatever indeterminate period of time how this manifests itself, because you're 100% right. It will be when they're enlisted to do something on the opposite side of the case that they would normally have found themselves. And more importantly, it's going to have to be something that's so morally reprehensible and contradictory to their interpretation of the law. They're probably going to say to Trump, we don't believe this interpretation of the Constitution. We can't take this position because that's a violation of our ethics.
Well, we'll see if they say that. And by the way, you know what? The really weird, twisted down is up and up is down aspect of all this is that everything you just pointed out on that great riff that a firm should do pro bono to benefit veterans is something the VA is supposed to be doing, which is the very institution Trump and Musk are gutting, which is going back to our friend Jim in Wisconsin, is the reason he finally got off the couch and went and voted in that election, because he realized that maybe they were going too far. So I hear what you're saying. We have to wait for the details, but before we see the impact. But at the very least, I feel it as a public relations humiliation of these law firms.
No question.
And it feeds the ego of Donald Trump, and it just feeds this propped up image he's created that he's this all powerful superior being that everybody is afraid of, and now everybody must bow to him.
Yeah, you got to go kiss the ring now. And
yes.
I mean, by the way, I don't want to go off on too big of a tangent, but there's a really interesting analogy I just thought of.
What?
You just pointed out these are government services that should already be in place.
Yes.
Can be, should be, we could fund them. Sometimes we do, whatever. It's inconsistent. It's kind of analogous to the big tech revolution and how fraudulent it is. So here's Elon Musk going around saying, I'm gonna create government efficiency. We're gonna go around all these agencies and find all the inefficiencies and the fraud, and we're gonna strip it out. And only we could do that. But we already had that. We had inspectors general who not only were they more qualified for the job and sincere about what they were doing, but knew about the damn agency in the first place. I've read these things, you have, in the past few weeks, where congressmen, senators are talking about efforts that they were making to revolutionize, to update systems in a particular agency. And then they came up against the reality that, well, actually, if we did that, it would cost more money than if we just used this old system. So that's why we're using this old, outdated analog system. We know that it's outdated, but changing it would cost $100 million. And right now, it's not losing any money. So this is actually a waste. It's little things like that, because it's like Uber or Lyft. What did they invent? Taxis? We've had taxis since they weren't motorized. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's all a grift. It's all just a lie. Like Donald Trump putting himself in the center of power and pretending like it all has to revolve around him. But all this stuff already existed.
Yes.
And Elon Musk isn't inventing anything or finding any efficiencies. Granted, every single person who's honest about it will say, yes, there's fraud occasionally. Yes, there's abuses occasionally. And we go and we stomp them out like a game of whack-a-mole. We try to have rules against it. We have prosecutions. You're not inventing anything, Jack. Like, you're going around pretending like you just came up with this idea, just stealing other people's ideas. It's the same thing, and branding it and marketing it as if it's somehow novel. It's just bullshit.
Yeah.
That's why it's a grift.
It is a grift.
And by the way, of course, we know the real purpose, and I know I'm on this tangent, and I said I wouldn't do it. But that's why he's going around and trying to destroy these agencies, because all the ones that he was targeting the most stridently were investigating his companies for doing things that were either illegal or dangerous or unethical, or his exploding rockets and his exploding cars. And these were agencies that were investigating those things. So destroying them, he doesn't care whether it actually creates efficiencies or whether Americans want it or don't want it. It's just about him.
Yeah.
That's the entire effort. And my hope is, to the extent that this guy, Jim in Wisconsin, was offended by Elon Musk when confronted with him, and that actually motivated him. My hope is that maybe the spell breaks and all the Trump people who are suddenly loved Elon, like they didn't even know who he was or didn't care until 3 months ago, and suddenly thinks he's the greatest thing ever, and they'll defend him. I see these social media posts from people I know. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You don't even see the evidence. How many pieces do we have to read where all of the efficiencies were actually either lies, or it wasn't an $8 billion contract, it was $800,000?
Yeah.
Hopefully that spell breaks, because it is just he's the fraud. It's nonsense. But
Well,
anyway, that's why Alex is big tech and pretending like they just came up with bread and slicing it yesterday.
Yeah. The idea of the spell breaking, I've pretty much given up on the spell breaking. As I pointed out in my little observation at the outset, there's 45% of the population that's in cement on this. It's pretty obvious for the 8 years we've been having these conversations, and we both have been waiting for the spell to break. And I'm not sure that spell will ever break, and that's a bigger topic than we have right now. So that's why I say democracy is so fragile. I went like classic case of it in the same article where Jim's quoted. They were at the campaign headquarters of the MAGA man who lost, and he was giving a speech, and he was actually conceding. It's so shocking, like a MAGA person just conceding the loss, and some MAGA-ite in the audience started screaming, "Cheaters, cheaters!" Like they automatically just assumed they were cheated somehow because they lost. And to his credit, and when I say this, the bar is so low, Jim. To his credit, the MAGA man who was running and said, "No, we lost. You gotta respect the election." I almost passed out when I read that. I go, wow.
It was an echo of John McCain.
Yeah, of distant
people to quiet down in the crowd when they started screaming at him when he was conceding to Barack Obama.
Yes,
but
very
I
good
agree
point.
with you. I heard that part of his. I heard that happen, and I think it's heartening if he's a Supreme Court candidate and he can acknowledge where the law is spoken and elections are valid.
And I'll point out one more time, the bar is low. We're pounding on our accolades on a guy for conceding election. He lost by 10 percentage points. Okay? Trump says he has a mandate when he wins with less than 50% of the vote. Susan Crawford got 55% of the vote, and some MAGA-ite is screaming, "Cheater, cheater."